Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy. I want to start this video by saying that it may be dangerous to other drivers or illegal to modify the headlights in your vehicle. This video is not an endorsement of modifying the headlights in your vehicle. It's merely a comparison between the different types of bulbs that you can put into your vehicle. That's it. Now that we've got that out of the way, it wasn't that long ago to where I did a similar video to this one where I compared LED versus HID versus halogen bulbs in halogen housings in my 2004 Honda Element. Some of you that saw that video had issue and said that, well, that information was basically useless because they weren't in projector housings instead of halogen housings. I have since installed a set of projector housings in my 2004 Honda Element. We're going to perform similar tests. I'm going to say these are better tests in this video than in the last video and compare HID versus LED versus halogen in projector housings. Keep watching. Well, throughout this video, I refer to reflector housings as halogen housings. It was just a little mistake that I made. Please forgive me for that, but whenever you hear halogen housings, please substitute that for reflector housings. For consistency, we've put the Element about 9 feet or roughly 3 meters away from the garage door and marked it with a board so we can put it back in the same position each time so we have an accurate comparison between each type of bulb. One more thing, we're going to keep the Element running during all of these tests. That way we maintain consistent voltage and light output. We're going to start things off with the halogens, and we can already see a difference between the projector housings and the halogen housings because with the projector housings, there's a definite line that the light is below. It does not really come above that line, which is, well, I guess the whole purpose of projector housings. The halogen bulbs, similar to the previous test, seem to have sort of a yellow tinge to them. It's sort of towards the 3000K spectrum as opposed to 5000, which would be white light. Just like last time, I'm going to use a light meter to measure the output of the light against the garage wall here. We're going to change up a couple of other tests in this video, but let's start with the light output of the halogens. Just like in the last video, I'm going to use this light meter to measure the light output of the halogen bulbs. So I'm going to move this across until I get the highest reading, which looks like about 3951 lux from the halogen bulbs. In the previous video, we had somewhat of a subjective test to see how far the light projected out in front of the vehicle. I'm going to do something a little more scientific in this video. Rather than someone telling me when the light beam is dropping off, we're going to back the Element up 50 feet away from the garage door and take a light reading that way. That way it's a lot more scientific, and that way we get a more accurate comparison between the different types of bulbs. So in that position is 50 feet away from the garage door.
Go ahead. Good.
We'll call that 50 feet. Now let's check the light output at 50 feet away from the garage door with halogen bulbs. Well, looks like the best I'm getting is 129 lux. This is what the halogen lights look like from the driver's seat. Those are the brights, low beams, high beams, low beams, high beams. Fun, right? So this test is going to be similar to what I did in the other video where I drive up to the Element and check the glare on a vehicle that's actually lower than what the Element is. I'm in my Acura Vigor right now. I'm going to drive up to it. We're going to see when the brightest point is. We'll take a light reading. Then I'm going to get out. I'll turn on the high beams and we'll see what reading we get with the high beams on just to check the difference between high and low beams. Once again, this is projector housings and we're testing the glare in a vehicle that's lower than the Element. Now I'm just going to drive up to the Element. Try to find out where the most glare is, and there really isn't a whole lot with these projectors. I mean, they seem pretty consistent. In fact, I seem to get more glare farther back than up close like this. And this test is namely to simulate what it would be like driving down the road and encountering the different types of bulbs. So yeah, like right about here seems to be a good place. I'm going to take a light reading. I'll turn this around and put it on hold after I get the reading. Low beam halogens, 11 lux. Now let's try the high beams. These are obviously significantly brighter. High beam halogens, 106 lux. Next up, we have the HIDs. Interesting thing about HIDs, they take a second to come up to, well, for lack of a better word, temperature. Well, those came up pretty quick. Anyway, we see the same pattern that we did on the last one, but the light is much whiter than it was previously. HIDs are significantly brighter. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna hold that at 140. Now these three dots after the 140 represent zeros. So this actual reading is 140,000 lux, which is substantially more than the halogens. These are the HIDs at 50 feet. I almost got 300. Ah, there it is. So I've got 301 at 50 feet with low beams HID. This is what the HID low beams look like just from sitting in the driver's seat. High beams, low beams, high beams, low beams, HIDs. All right, this time we're going to do that same low beam, high beam test driving up lower car with the HIDs. You can already see that these are significantly brighter than the halogens were. All right, let's go back to where they're shining in my face the most. And this is to simulate driving down the road and basically coming across the vehicle like this. All right, that looks pretty good there. It's like right at my face. Low beams HID, gonna take the light reading right about where my face is. Hold it. And this is 11 lux, it looks like, for low beams HID, 11 lux. Way brighter. Way brighter. Wow. These are significantly brighter at 233 lux. HIDs, high beams, 233 lux. As you can see, the LEDs come up instantaneously, unlike the HIDs, which seem to warm up a little bit. Also, the LEDs seem to have a softer light than the HIDs, at least to my eye. I should also note that both the HID and the LED lights are both 5000K kits. One thing I noticed that's interesting is when you turn on the high beams in these projector housings, it's very different. Strange, right? So that's the high beams, low beams, high beams. Very different with projector housings. Now looking at this at 9 feet, it looks like we have, well, let's call that 2704 lux for the LEDs, which was a lot less than the HIDs. All right, well, the most I can seem to get out of the LEDs is 101 lux, which at 50 feet, which isn't all that great. So LEDs, 101 lux at 50 feet. This is what the LEDs look like from the driver's seat. Low beams, high beams, low beams, high beams, low beams, high beams. And now we're going to do the drive-by and low beam, high beam test with the LEDs. These aren't bad at all. In fact, it's like they're hardly there. LEDs are very soft. That feels about right. And I'm just basically going by my eye. When I see it the brightest in my eye, I realize that's somewhat subjective, but we'll take a lux reading now. Okay, what we have with low beams is 7 lux. Yeah, that's a little brighter. All right, now we'll take a measurement with the high beams with the LEDs. High beams, 122 lux with the LEDs. Well, that concludes our testing, and it was kind of fun. And I think a better video than the last one because our testing, I think, was a little more scientific and accurate. That's my opinion. I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments. But having projector housings is definitively way better than having things in halogen housings. So on that point, you guys were correct. So let's look at the numbers. All right, halogens at 9 feet came out to 3951 lux. The HIDs came out to 140,000 lux, and the LEDs at 9 feet were 2704 lux. At 50 feet, the halogens were 129 lux, the HIDs were 301 lux, and the LEDs were 101 lux at 50 feet. The low beams on the halogens were 11 lux. Low beams on the HID was also 11 lux, which I found kind of interesting. Low beams on the LEDs were 7 lux. High beams on the halogens were 106 lux. High beams on the HIDs were 233 lux. High beams on the LEDs were 122 lux. I think it's fairly obvious that the HIDs are the brightest, the LEDs are the softest, and the halogens are a bit yellow. And once again, I want to point out that both the HIDs and LED kits were 5000 K, and that's the color temperature, which is really close to quote-unquote white light. If you have automotive questions not covered in this video, I ask that you head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. I'll link that in the description. Also in the description, I'll put links to the lights that I use, the other video that I made, which you can go and watch now if you want, and any additional information that should go along with this. Once again, be sure to check your local laws to find out if it's even possible to modify your headlights before you go here. But at least now you know what you're getting into. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.